Chaos Walking, a movie that spent 10 years being written, rewritten, shot, reshot, and then finally dropped in 2021 like someone hit export on the wrong timeline. This was supposed to be a franchise, a young adult dystopian epic. Instead, it became a studio horror story with 2 A-listers, 2 directors, and a Rotten Tomatoes score so low it's practically an excavation site. Budget? Somewhere between $100 to $125 million. Global box office? $27 million. Not a misfire. A $100 million apology note disguised as a movie. Starring Tom Holland, doing his best as a guy whose brain is basically a live feed of anxiety, and Daisy Ridley, who seems like she signed on before reading the script, then stayed out of sheer social guilt. They're on a planet colonized by humans. And here's the twist. Every man's thoughts project into the open air as something called the noise, which means the whole male population sounds like a Twitter thread you can't mute. It's not a superpower, it's not insight. It's just loud, random psychic farts swirling around everyone's heads for 2 hours. That's the world building. That's the hook. And it gets old in 10 minutes. This all started back in 2011 when Lionsgate bought the rights to a novel called The Knife of Never Letting Go. They had one goal: find the next Hunger Games. Instead, they created the next shelf filler at Walmart nobody picks up. The project was passed around like a hot potato of regret. It was rewritten several times, including by Charlie Kaufman. Yes, the Eternal Sunshine guy. They didn't use his version. Because why have depth when you can have thought fog? Eventually, Doug Liman came on to direct. The same guy who gave us The Bourne Identity and Edge of Tomorrow. So naturally, expectations went up. Then they went off a cliff. Test screenings in 2018 were reportedly so bad, the studio shelved the movie. They brought in Fede Alvarez to do reshoots in 2019, but it clashed with Tom Holland's Spider-Man schedule and Daisy Ridley's Star Wars obligations. So they waited and waited until March 2021, when they dropped it during the pandemic, the same week Raya and the Last Dragon opened and ate what little box office was left. Let's talk plot. Tom Holland plays Todd, a teen who's never seen a woman before. The women in his village are gone, and all the men are just thinking at each other out loud. Then Viola crash lands, and now he has a new problem: actual social interaction. There's no real tension, just walking, running, grunting, and internal screaming. They get chased by angry villagers, led by Mads Mikkelsen, who spends the movie dressed like a fur-wrapped philosophy professor from a discount villain outlet. His motivation? Vague menace. He's bad, probably. He wants power, or silence, or screen time. Unclear. And if you're wondering where the stakes are, they're buried next to the dog, which the film kills off halfway through. Yes, they introduce a dog, make it the most relatable character, then toss it for cheap shock value. Also on deck, a deranged preacher, a town of NPCs, and a finale that fades out like the editor ran out of coffee and gave up mid-cut. This movie wasn't a risk that didn't pay off. It was a gamble with no cards. It never stood a chance because no one ever knew what it was even trying to be. Final verdict: flushed. Not because it's aggressively bad, but because it's so violently average it wasted a golden idea, 2 great leads, and a full studio's resources on what feels like a tech demo for thoughts no one asked to hear. It had a premise. It had stars. It had time. It promised a storm of thought and delivered fog. This was chaos walking, and this was criticism with no emotional support.